Listen, you're not going to watch this because you think I'm either some scammy person, a jackass, or somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. And that's okay. I want you to think about something. So often I cut my own hair. And I'm a grown man. I make a really good salary. And, there's no reason for me to cut my own hair. I want you to wonder and think about why that is the case. What is going on there? I want you to think about how do you actually get from going from nothing. My parents didn't grow up in much. They lived in a garage for a long time. They both grew up in farmstead houses with many different kids to where I am today, to where I think I'm going to go. And that is going to be one of the most well-known professors in the world that talks about innovation and helps people do good things in their life. How does that happen? What does that look like? And it's all because of cutting your own hair. So here's the thing. You've got only a certain amount of resources at your fingertips. There's only so much that goes around. And for many of us, it's not a lot. In fact, for most of us, it's not a lot. But we have control over those resources, or at least a few little bits of those resources. Much of that stuff is outside of our control. Much of it we have to pay for our room and board, we have to pay for food, we have to pay for all sorts of different things in our life, and it disappears. But there is a little smidgen that we have control about. And that little smidgen is pretty simple how we understand how you can grow and become successful in the long run. It's really simple. You take a portion of everything that comes in and you reinvest it for the long term in things that provide a great deal of value to other people. Now, I'm not talking about providing value to yourself. I'm talking about providing value to other people. Now, why is that the case? Well, if you provide value to yourself, that disappears very quickly. You're consuming those resources. If you provide value to other people, then somebody else can go and reinvest it that's better than you. And that's what investing is all about. I take 10 to 20%, so my family takes on average, we probably take about 18 to 20, closer to 20% of everything that we make. And we've done this for years now, and we reinvest it. We reinvest everything that we take, and we reinvest it in things like mutual funds and index funds and all of the best companies that exist in this world. And that's all we do with that part of our investing, right? So that means there's a simple rule that has occurred for probably 100 years, probably 150 years now in the stock market. There's a simple rule. It's called the rule of 7, which means every 7 years, whatever money that you have in the stock market, broadly invested, doubles, right? It's a simple fact of just compound interest. So what is that? What is compound interest? It basically means that every single year a little bit grows. Not a lot, a little bit, 10%. So which means this year you're going to have $1 and you're going to take that and put that into some sort of investment, and that's going to double to $1.10, or that's going to go to $1.10 the next year. And then the next year it's going to be $1.21, $1.22 that you're going to have. It's not going to be a lot that's going to happen, and it's slow, very, very slow over the long run. And how this actually happens. And it seems very slow, it's very painful. And when you're taking that money away from today and reinvesting it in something else, it doesn't feel well in any sort of way. It means that I'm living a lot more poorly, and I'm getting a lot more haircuts myself. I'm cutting all my hair, I'm doing things that are very simple and living a very simple life. Now, if I look for all sorts of things in my life that have the same sort of structure, where there is compound interest that happens, And I think about that, how I can gain from that compound interest, all the different things. So it might be, my fitness or eating, for example, where the things that I did 10 years ago impact how things happen this year, right? And that's really all that matters. That's what you're thinking about. And so I might invest in things like fitness, for example. When I was younger, I was overweight. That was fine. But I invested over the long run in my health and things got a little better. I invest in walking. Things got a lot better. Invest in swimming. Things get really well. So there's all sorts of things that are like this in your life. Now, another thing is curious, right? So one of the things I haven't talked about so far is the reciprocity project. Why am I actually being on social media and talking about things and talking about my life, all these kind of things? Well, you have to think about that. There's compound interest that happens in that generally. In that compound interest, I'm walking Izzy and Babs. That compound interest is slow and painful, but in fact, on the internet, it's quite spectacular how this compound interest actually works. It grows a lot faster than anything else that we know of at this moment in terms of the returns that you actually get. Now, this is not guaranteed in any sort of way, but they do grow. It's pretty fascinating to see this kind of stuff. And what's it grow at? Well, it's not the 1%. It's probably more like 20 to 30% per year, which doesn't seem like a lot, right? That's pretty slow. It's pretty painful. And that's where most people look at this stuff and they say it's not worth your time. It's not worth your effort in any sort of way. Why would a rational person that makes as much money as I do, and I don't care, you could look up my salary and see how much I make. It's not any different than any other management professor that's out there. It's not that much different. Why would somebody making that much money, living in a family, just living my life, why would he do things like that? The reason is that there's compound interest. And the reason is I could see in 10, 20 years from now that this is going to be a thing. And that's what I'm looking at. And that's why I cut my hair. That's why I do things that are unusual, that people will discount and people will say, well, that's crazy. I don't think about tomorrow. I don't think about today. I don't think about tomorrow in the immediate year. I'm thinking about what's going to happen in a decade, 2 decades from now. And remember, it comes back to this rule of 7 thing. If I look for anything that sort of compounds in some sort of way, even if it's, maybe it's 2, 3, 4%, and I'm looking at resources that I currently have. There's not a lot of resources that I have at this moment. So I've maxed out my financial resources. We invest in for our retirement. We're going to have a lot of money at the end of it, just simply by doing that. And if you do that, you'll have a lot of money. It doesn't matter who you are and what you're doing. If you're a teacher and you're making $50,000 a year, you take 10% of everything that you take in, or 20% of everything that you take in, and you invest it in index funds and mutual funds and sort of broad-based things, you're going to have a lot of money at the end of and by the time that you retire. Everybody should. That's a simple fact of some really basic financial understanding, right? So we do that. What's the other thing that I can do? Well, I try to be a good dad. I try to be, a good husband as much as I can. It's hard to do those things, but I try. And the one thing that I have not been able to do is doing the reciprocity project. So that's why I started doing it. I started thinking about how can I have a larger impact? What does that mean? Well, I could build tools and I could talk. And those are the things that I do and I think about. And so if I think about those things, and if I can grow those particular things, then hey, we can actually do a lot and change the world more than it is today. And if I can think about ways that it doesn't benefit me particularly, there's no reason to do this. I enjoy just doing my walks and listening to my own music and podcasts and all those kind of things, and having people not think that I'm crazy in all sorts of different ways. I enjoy that. But instead, I've decided to do this because I want to make other people feel good I want to make them get benefit in some sort of way and learn the underlying lesson of all of these kind of things that I'm talking about. So what I'm getting at is you could do some really wonderful things in this world. You just simply have to look at the limited resources that you have and start thinking about how can I transform those limited resources that I have to something that is going to grow and compound and do wonderful things in the long run. I'm not thinking about how things are today. In fact, I would actually sacrifice and do a lot of things that add penalty today and that are not comfortable. Cutting my own hair. Man, when I tell people that I cut my own hair, people think that I'm crazy. It's true. And that's okay, right? And that's where I have to be in who I am, just being okay with who I am. And people looking at me like I'm strange, because I'm strange like a fox, right? Where I see that things are changing and things are going, I'm going to invest in those things. And I'm going to look for all the little kind of opportunities where there's compound interest. And I'm going to start putting a little bit of resources and time and effort at those things. So for you, it doesn't matter where you are in your life, think about the little things where you can invest a little bit. And it might not actually start off that big, right? And that's okay, right? Where you're investing maybe 1%, 2% of your time, your effort, financial resources, any of that kind of stuff into something that has compound interest, right? And if you, by the way, if you have debts of any kind, pay those things off immediately. That's where your biggest returns are. But in general, you could look at all sorts of things in your life where you could do that with. That we spend a lot of time goofing around and doing things that are silly. If you like to play video games, for example, why not record yourself playing video games? And you do that for a long time, something might happen. Lots of people have had careers built because of that, right? And so you look for things that you can grow and you have compound interest that can turn into something miraculous. Do that for a long run, very long run, decades, and good things are going to happen. Trouble is, you're not willing to do it. It's going to be hard. People are going to look at you like you're crazy. Start recording yourself playing video games. Start doing that. See how it feels. And have other people watch it. It's goofy. It doesn't feel good. But that's what you got to do in order to do something that is going to turn into something that's miraculous. So I'm going to tell you this. Start investing in yourself. Start looking at all the little kind of resources that you have available. If you live in Bangladesh and you're on the streets of Bangladesh, you could do this. Look at what you have available. Look to see what you can actually spend a little bit, but not spend, but invest for the long run. Start thinking about how you can save. Do some wonderful things. Do that for a long time, for an extremely long time, and good things will happen. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.